Now, yeah. So I feel, as a startup founder, one thing that really matters is when we start with solving any kind of problem. I mean, when I was working with Aman at Yesterday, I joined them at a very early stage. I joined them when we were just about, I was the 30th employee who had interviewed with them. And by the time I joined, we were just about 80 employees because my employee ID was 80. And then, it was a complete madness. I mean, I don't know if you guys have worked at a startup, but there it was a complete madness. The entire team was sitting on the floor, be it tech team, be it business team, etc., etc. And they were all working towards one common goal, the vision that Nestaway had. And we had just raised about 1.5 million USD at that point in time. This is way back in July 2015. That's the time that I'm talking about. And, I think despite the chaos, despite the madness that I saw, because coming from IBM where everything is very structured, very process driven, everybody knows what they need to do, etc. Though there was still madnesses there, which I will discuss about, when we start discussing this entire journey. The factor is that, as a business leader, as a founder, as a product manager, or as a product head, you have to be very, very clear about the vision part. What is the vision that we are trying to go after, or what is it that we're trying to achieve? And of course, it is broken down into vision and then goals, etc., etc. So the vision is the larger element, and I think where there is a misalignment in terms of vision understanding, that is where the startups or businesses fail or they break. All right, even if they don't fail, they break, they slow down. So defining the vision statement is very clear. Okay, the mission for us at that point in time, so of course, the vision was to build affordable accommodation solutions for the bachelor community, who at that point in time did not have options to go and find a place to stay, because most of the people were very anti-bachelors and they said, "I'm bachelors ko ghar nahi dete," right? So the vision that we had was, how do we solve this problem at scale using tech, using people, and using the product that we will build. The product that point in time was just a plain simple website. We didn't have anything else other than a website where people could go search for houses and book an accommodation. There was nothing else. Everything else was being done, I would say, manually. All right. So, but we had to identify what kind of product do we have to build. You can't just start building the product on day one and say, okay, let me interview a few people and let me start building the product. It doesn't work like that, guys. So the vision part is there. Of course, you build the MVP, which I'm sure you guys have heard about. After you have identified, once you identify a problem statement and you say that, hey, I want to solve this problem because I feel nobody else is solving it better than I can. So let me solve this problem, is the vision definition part. Second is your target audience. Who is my target audience? I'm sure you guys have heard about it. I mean, you guys are MBA students. But again, identifying the right target audience is the second most important part that you have to do. Not everybody can be a target audience. And then third is identifying your target market. And please understand that all of these three have to be aligned for your product to come in the right way. All right. Now I will move to the next slide. And I start typically with the vision part. I mean, whether it is here, whether it was at Nestaway, whether it was at IBM, so like I said, I was a part of one huge project where I had to work with the country general managers across 86 different nations that IBM was present in. And we were consolidating pieces of work that was spread across 86 countries into center of excellences across 4 geographies. Because we felt that it is a good idea to have SMEs and build those product solutions and consolidate it rather than having it spread across. It adds to the cost. Managing it is different. There were other issues, and there were people who were redundant. There were work processes that were redundant, etc. So it was a huge transformation project that I was a part of. Right. So my global leader, and I was a part of the global team. So my global leader had I would say had framed the vision part for it, and the same thing I will tell you was happening at Nested, and the same principle I follow here in my startup or any other startup that I work with. All right. So one is, of course, the company part. I mean, we establish a company. Why are we building a product? All right. What is my mission what is it that I'm trying to achieve by building this product? What kind of value will my company derive, and what kind of value will it add to the life of my users? That is point number 2. And what kind of story are we building around it and who are going to be my users, and why am I building this particular product for my user. Okay, that's your first part. So you have to be clear about this, the why part. Second comes the product building part, and of course, the why part encompasses many things, such as your competitive landscape, such as your business case, such as your user journey, building customer persona. I would say doing a lot of market research, surveys, etc., is all a part of your why part. Now let's move to the product part. Now you have the information here, all right, and now you move to the what product are we building. So we have identified the pain point. We know that these are the issues. We know these are the challenges, etc. Now we start building the product part. Now here is when the UI and UX part both come together, because this is where your design element will come in. Because you now know what the vision is, what the mission is, what kind of what is your business value proposition, what is it that you're trying to build here, what your competitive advantages, what your competitors are doing, who your customers are, their personas, their journey. Now you start building the product part. So here, of course, you take the requirements. You, of course, are not going to be working with a tech team, of course, because I'm assuming that it's a tech product. So the requirement part, what will be my feature set? Who am I building this product for? Am I building this for a B2B platform? Am I building this for a B2C customer? If in B2C customer, who are my customers? Are they kids? Are they parents? Are they working professionals? Who are my customers? That will determine your feature set, the functionality part, the design part. And of course, when you have all of these information, it will also determine your marketing strategy part and your sales strategy part. And then, of course, you build your roadmap. So all of these things are a part of your what product are we building. And of course, all of this now, the business aspect and the engineering aspect, the feature aspect, the functionality aspects have now got to convert into an engineering product also. So right from what kind of tech stack am I going to be using, the architecture part, of course, data security, data privacy, if you're collecting information is huge. It's very important, especially if you're building a B2B product. I'm working with a company, and we are trying to build a B2B product in the safety space. And I can tell you the number of questions, and this is a Fortune, I would say, 4 company that we're talking to right now. I can tell you for a fact the kind of security measures that they have with respect to their application, because we would also be collecting SPIs, is huge. So when you are building a product, whether it is a B2C or a B2B, people are very are very concerned about their data, how you're going to be using it, etc. And considering that I've worked with IBM and then 86 countries, and data was such a huge thing. GDPR, I think you guys are hearing of it recently, but I've been hearing of these, I would say, legal clauses way back from 2011, 2008, 2010, 2011 onwards. I've been hearing these terms. All right, so the security part is very important. What kind of tech stack are you going to be using? How will your data information flow? Are you looking at building it like for millions of users, or are you looking at building it for a couple of thousand users? Everything will determine that what kind of product we will build. Because remember that once we start building a technology product, I'm not saying that you have to build everything on day one. It's never a good idea, because your product will undergo change. It will undergo a lot of feature changes, etc. So it is okay to build a simple product, but have a roadmap that, right now I'm looking at maybe just 10,000 users, but maybe 2 years down the line, I'm looking at 1 million users, and after that 100 million users, etc. So you start planning your tech stack accordingly, because guys, trust me, and I'm saying this because I have experienced it. Changing tech stack and then trying to rebuild everything is like, rebuilding a house, and it takes a toll on your time, the customer experience part, all of that, because customers are very unforgiving. Ultimately, remember that part also. All right. Now, moving to the next part, the vision goal. All right. Now here we're looking at what is the purpose for me to create this product. Because as a product person, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, I'm sure you guys want to be leaders. All right. So you have to be very clear in your head that, what problem does this particular product solve? All right. And what kind of change will it bring about in the lives of people who are going to be using this product? That clarity is absolutely important. And the minute you're not clear about it, trust me, you can make a product, but you will not be able to sell it. And you will have to, you'll basically be able to sell it, plain and simple. If you're not clear about this particular thing or this particular aspect. Now, next is the target group. I'm sorry, the spelling is incorrect here. Which market or market segment are we addressing? You have to be clear about that. And next would, of course, be your target customers and users. Of course, the need part, please remember there's a difference between need and want. Need is something that a person cannot do without. Want is something, you know, they can do without. It's a emotional aspect that I want something. A need could be I need a car because I need to get to my office every single day, and I have to also drop my kid. It rains, it gets very cold, so I need a car. That's the need part. But want could I need a car, I can buy a Maruti 800 also. But the want could be that, hey, I want a fancy car. I probably want to buy maybe, I don't know, Honda City. So that is the want part. But the need part is the car. So you always have to look at when you start off building any product, please focus on the need part, because if it is not solving the need part and it is solving the want part, you will need lots of money to convert that into a need part. I'm just saying, all right. And you also have to remember that what kind of benefit will it provide to your users? And then, of course, the product part. I mean, what product are you building? Is it going to be an app? Is it going to be a web app? Is it going to be a hardware product? I mean, what product are we ultimately building? And the most important part, what is your competitive advantage when we're building a product? And most importantly, I mean, I have done this, okay? Is it even feasible to develop this product? And I have faced all of this, guys. I'll come to that part also. And most importantly, guys, we are running a company, okay, or we are a part of company whose major goal, unless it's a NGO, the primary goal for any organization is going to be generating revenue. They may or may not be profitable. That's a different story. But ultimately, is that if they're not generating, then future cash flows. I mean, how is this particular product going to benefit the company if I add this particular product, or if I add this particular feature? And then, of course, understanding the business goals also. Now, guys, when I started, when I was a part of Nestaway, of course, the vision was very clear. The mission was established that, hey, of course, the business model was such that we always would need, we needed investors' funding or investment. So, of course, the core task as a business head that was given to me was to ensure that we are able to generate an organic pipeline of users also. Okay, so that was the task that I had. Now, I knew who my target audiences were. So I knew that, okay, all of these, I mean, bachelor's accommodation, typically who would be bachelor's people who are right out of college would be my target audience, ideally, all right? I thought so. And of course, they were my target audience. All right. And what was the biggest challenge that was being faced by my target audience? That, you know, they wanted to live in good houses, or they wanted to live in gated accommodation, etc. But they were unable to do so because most of the owners were apprehensive and still are apprehensive about renting their places to a bunch of bachelors. All right. So that was the target audience. We knew it very clearly. So we started our work. We had just got 250 customers when we had joined them. It was a complete chaos. They were all upset. Not all, but a lot of them were upset because we promised them sun and moon. And of course, they had those expectations also. But then we were trying to solve it also, which was definitely difficult using the manual intervention. So that's when we realized, okay, we need to add these particular product features as a part of a solution, because it just makes things very easy for information to flow from one end to the other. So fine, done. So we started, of course, those recommendations would go to the product team who would start building those solutions. Now, again, coming back to the point, the target group, I knew that they were all college students who would have graduated. So what did I do? Reached out to colleges, spoke to the placement committee, and I said, hey, can we also put up our kiosk here, and so that we can let the students know who are graduating, if they are looking for accommodation at that time, and at that point in time, we were only in Bangalore. If they're looking for accommodation in Bangalore, we should be able to help them. A great idea. People came and wrote down their names, etc. Only to realize that a lot of them did not end up taking our place. All right. And when we further went and ghar to sab kuch chahiye, need part is taken care of. They all need the house. But Nestaway became a want part for certain set of students. Why? Because the costing was something that it was not making sense for our users, certain segment of users. So you have to, and I was wasting my time going to those kind of colleges and wondering why am I not getting the result. It was because I was not approaching the right kind of target group. So then ultimately I realized that, okay, for people who are the people who can afford the accommodation here, probably people who can, who earn a salary of 4 lakh and above would be the right people or target audience for me. So when you start understanding your target audience, then you start building those kind of products. Then somebody wonderful in our company came and said, okay, let's do a newspaper ad. Okay, now do students read newspapers? I mean, they will read digital newspapers, but nobody really reads those Times of India kind of newspapers. I mean, I buy a hard copy of newspaper, and my daughter will read it on the phone. So that is how different users are. But then, what did our smart set of people do? They put it up on Times of India. Of course, got us a lot of eyeballs, etc. But did that translate into the kind of thing that we were looking for? No. So you have to be very clear about who my target audience is. What is their need? The need is कि मुझे घर चाहिए. I need a house. Okay. How am I solving the problem? I'm solving the problem by giving them that thing. But they also need food. They also need, they also need food, and they need clothes, etc. And all of that has to be managed in a certain budget. And if we cannot offer them that particular solution, no matter how great a product you build, you will not get that solution, or you will have to change your target group. So I hope I'm able to make sense here. Now, for us to build the, when I typically start building, working on a problem statement or a new product, whenever I start building, working on it, I typically keep the user in my mind. Okay. I will always have a thing in my head that, okay, this could be my potential ideal kind of a user. And then I will break it down. And I'm sure all of us have seen this kind of a thing, but how well are we doing it is also something that you have to see. All right. So I will typically start with my user persona. I, of course, will see what is the product that I'm looking at building, what is the pain point that it is solving. Now, let's take the case in point of Inmovidou only. Why did I start Inmovidou? So Inmovidou was not an idea that came to me just now. This is an idea which has been with me since 2012, guys. Since 2012, I have always believed that the future of education is going to be online. The future of education is going to be connectivity, and people should not be, I would say, education should not be limited to people based on their geography or region that they are in. It's the same thing, or the monetary aspect. I mean, education should be something which should be accessible to everyone. Of course, way back in 2012, you think if I had launched the company, it would have been a huge disaster. Couple of reasons. While the users were there, I come from an army background, so I understand the pain point of not being able to access and learn things that I want to. If I'm posted, my father or my husband is posted in a place like Srinagar, counterinsurgency area, or again in Manipur, or probably in places where there is no internet, no electricity, no smartphones, etc. Smartphones not allowed. How is a student supposed to learn there? So I mean, I've always experienced that. So coming back to the point, so I always knew that people would want to learn online, but at that point in time, the market was not right. People were not comfortable transacting online. They were not comfortable on learning online. The internet was not that great. The smartphones or the devices, personal devices, weren't there as what we see today. Internet was patchy itself here in Bangalore. I cannot even imagine what it would be like in other parts of India. So of course, coming back to the point, so you always have to understand when you are looking at building a problem solution. Couple of things: is the market ready for it? Okay, and do you have everything that you require to make it a success? And most importantly, identifying your customer persona. All right. So when of course, the thought was there with me. So when I finally decided to launch this company, I started doing this part-time while I was still working with Nestive, and of course, my founder was aware of it. And I started first with the customer persona. I started first by understanding that what is really the pain point that my user is facing. And it was a very, very broad level, I would say, problem statement that I had at that point in time. Of course, we narrowed it down, and now we are where we are today. But that point in time, 2017, 18, I think, so that's when I started. So I started with understanding that what are the challenges that people face when they have to learn something online. So, I mean, of course, nothing is going to be free. People have to pay also. So we start with putting a person in a certain role. So if it's a student, what kind of a challenge would they have? It could be different from probably somebody who's in college versus somebody who's probably early working professional versus somebody who is in their mid-career level versus somebody who is looking at retirement and now is looking for solutions that they can pursue after they retire, etc., or superannuate, etc. Those solutions are going to be very, very different. So we decided that, okay, let's go with the kids, a kids category, because they are the ones who want to learn. I never assumed that, people my age or, college students would want to learn things. So I put students as my customer persona, and I started building things there as to what is it that my user wants to learn. What is the goal of my user? Okay. What is it that they're trying to achieve? Are they looking at getting better grades? Are they looking at acquiring a skill? Are they just doing it as a hobby? What is it that they have as a goal? And the buying concern here, or the buying motivation, of course, would be for the parents, right? A kid wouldn't have money to pay for it 99% of the times. Of course, it would be the parent who would be paying for it. Then what could be the potential buying motivation or buying concern for the parents? What could be the set of challenges that they would face? Could it be that internet? Could it be they don't have laptops? Could it be they don't have money? I mean, all of those challenges also we considered. And not just that, we also considered that what kind of challenge would this person overcome if they were to take a solution through us. And then, of course, if they were not working anywhere, so this company's size and industry did not matter. Industry, we put it as school. Only to realize that, for us, of course, it was a difficult proposition when we started. Didn't work out. I had a tough time convincing parents to buy our product. And we tried a small bit, pivoted, moved it into a different model. There we were extremely successful, had the best of the company sign us up, got a lot of business, didn't have right people, had to shut it down. Okay. Went back again to the drawing board. I realized that I was making a lot of mistakes. The vision part was not clear. Who am I building the solution for? Why am I building the solution? What is it that I'm trying to achieve? Second, my customer persona understanding was not correct. All right. I'll just move to the previous slide. Point number 3, I was approaching the wrong target group who I did not have the expertise to understand and solve the problem for. And then, of course, there was no business. So the product, the company was not going to benefit because of it. Neither was the business goals being achieved. So we pivoted it, went back to the drawing board, again, restarted this company in 2020. The time when COVID was announced, we restarted this company. And now we were very, very clear. We were very clear that we were going to solve this problem of getting the relevant kind of education for college students. We were very clear that our customer persona is going to be a college student. The role was that the student is looking at acquiring some kind of skills, which is right now, the lack of the skills is actually making him or her unemployable. So we came up with that particular thing, that how do we help the student overcome this challenge of unemployment with our particular solution? What were the users' goals? We were very clear about it. The users' goals were to acquire the right kind of industry exposure, industry knowledge, so that they can get employed. That was the clear, simple objective. That was the need. It was a want that the student had, that I wish I can get into a better company, which we converted into a need. And we were now able to, we knew where to find our ideal customers. We know what kind of language do we need to speak to them. We are able to, not just do that. We know what they are doing, how they're thinking, what will they want, when will they want, how will they want. All of those things are pretty clear to us. And hence, the second time that when we launched this particular company, I am very, very happy to mention that we are doing pretty fine. We are a bootstrap, a profitable company. Our bottom line is absolutely impressive. We have more than 1 million students who are a part of our platform, and we have spent zero money on any kind of digital marketing. All right. And we have done all of this organically with a very small team of initially 40 people. And now, of course, we are a 100-member team, and we're looking at expanding it to 300. So what I'm trying to tell you here, guys, is the fact that, once you are clear of your user persona, you will know what kind of marketing strategies you have to do. You will know when you have to do, you will know how you have to do. Like, you will never see us do any kind of Facebook ad, because we know that our users are not going to be using Facebook. All right. We know what our users are going to be using. We know when we have to approach them. You will never see we'll never do our ads at 9 o'clock in the morning because all my students are in college. It's silly to launch my ads at 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't do ads in the evenings either because, I know they have different priorities, different things that they want to do. So once you know your customer persona, you are able to get all of these things absolutely right. I mean, typically, again, some things which are very, very typical, start off with an MVP. When we started our company on 23rd of March 2020, we just had a conviction, we had clarity in terms of what we want to do, how we want to do. And we didn't even have a website, guys. And on 25th of March, we had 15 students who signed up with us. And till now, we have had more than 150,000 students who have done various kinds of projects with us. All right. So, that level of clarity, once you have, you're able to achieve those kind of things. So one is, of course, you have to know the demographics part. It's a very broadly used term. Of course, you need to know all of this, guys. I mean, you should know how a 18-year-old will think. You should know how a 25-year-old will think, what they like, how they like. I mean, if I'm talking about somebody from Bidar, Karnataka versus somebody from Mumbai, they are not going to be the same guys. And they are going to be absolutely different in their thought process, in their approach, in terms of their expectations from themselves and from others, etc. Everything matters, guys. And if you're not saying the right things or doing the right things, no matter what information you have, you will not be able to do anything with it. So when I say demographics, very, very important, guys. You should also be able to categorize people, bucket people in terms of their personality. If I'm looking at students from X kind of a college, what kind of things do they pursue? What is their affinity towards brands and what kind of brands? Okay, are these students who are following trends? What kind of habits do they have? How many number of hours are they spending online? What kind of gadgets do they have? We track everything, guys. All right, so we know all of that information when we are doing a personality or a persona development here. And then when it comes to the product part, when you're building a product, it's a very competitive world, I would say. And doing business is like getting into a war. You do not know who is where and what can happen. All right. So you always have to build products that your users will like, will love, and will want to be associated with, not just for now, but also on a long-term basis. Okay. So how do you build that knowledge? Do they have any prior knowledge about the product? And in what context are they going to be using your product? Why will they use your product? Why do you think they will like your product? What will be their motivation to use your product? Are things that you have to be absolutely clear when you are building a user persona. All right. One mistake that we did, all right, I'll talk about yesterday, because I want you guys to learn from my experience. We made a lot of mistakes, and I think our founder was really great that he never said anything because we were all learning together. And I realized when I was looking at expansion in Delhi, and we came up with the campaign, and we came up with the kind of advertisements, etc., digital marketing ads, etc. I realized nothing was working. So I was, of course, very upset with my manager there and my team there, and I was like, "You guys are not working because I'm not there, etc., etc. Why is it not working? It's working pretty fine in Bangalore and Hyderabad. Why is it not working there, etc." And clearly it was not working. And then he said, "Mridula, why don't you come to Delhi and see for yourself? Because what you're saying is not making sense. I mean, the kind of ads that you're running, it's not making sense. It does not work in Delhi. You please come here." So finally, I went to Delhi to see, of course, to see what is happening. So I traveled from Gurgaon to Noida and Delhi, etc., only to realize that the tagline that we were using, that live closer to office so that you don't have to spend time on traffic, was actually not relevant for Delhi. In Delhi, people don't face as much challenge in traveling because of metros. All right. And I could get from, say, Rajiv Chowk to Noida sector end in like 45 minutes, using metro. So traveling to those cities, to those places was really not a challenge because of metro. The big challenge was that people didn't want to stay in desolate, isolated places where they could not get out of the house after 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, should they run out of any stuff, because it was absolutely unsafe. So I was near one office of HCL to see how it was. And I realized that nobody would want to stay there because it is so far away from the main shopping complex that, even if they decide to take a public transport system, they can be mugged. So of course that line did not make sense. So we had to come up with a different strategy. We had to come up with a different tagline. We had to come up with a different kind of a solution offering for people in Delhi, all right, or the NCR region. So these are things that guys happens when we are not clear versus when we are clear. All right. Now let's start with the user journey part. I've kept a very brief thing here because I quickly want to move to the UI UX part also. But let's move to the user journey part. I mean, goals, as you all know, you have to be very clear about, what is it that your customer wants to accomplish that your product can help them with. For example, a workout app, it could be used for both purposes. It could be used, I mean, we'll say, I want to stay healthy. I want to be fit. Fit for somebody could be meaning gaining weight. Fit for somebody could be losing weight. So it depends on what your user wants to use it for. And you'd be astonished to know that people can find multiple use cases for your product. You may have built a product for a certain reason, only to realize that there are multiple offshoots to it, which your user will, over a period of time, tell you. So when I am doing my, user journey mapping, I typically rely a lot on empathy mapping, because I think that's a great way to know. I mean, that's a great way to know about what your users think and do in their daily lives, rather than just ask them very directed questions where you want to hear what they're saying. But I typically do empathy mapping, and then of course I move to the other forms of qualitative and quantitative surveys also. All right. So the goal part is, when I come across a problem statement, all right, and I think, okay, is this problem statement applicable to one, or is it applicable to many? Because my solution would depend on them. And I typically like things which are scalable and big. I don't like things which I have to solve for just a handful of people. I don't think I need to do that. So I will always look for problems which are big and massive in nature. So now if you look at our product, why did we decide to start our product in Inmovidou Tech, which is essentially helping companies and students, companies in the sense we are helping them build their talent pool and get trained resources at zero cost. That's what we do for companies. And for students, we are helping them get industry exposure and relevant industry knowledge using a project model. Now, guys, you are in really good colleges, but I can tell you there are a lot of MBA colleges where students are only learning from the books and they have zero practical knowledge, and that's not what companies want or look for in students. All right. So as a goal, when we started building this company, we were very clear about, and we started, of course, with the assumption that what is it that our ideal customer wants to accomplish, that my product can help. So when we narrowed down that, okay, we know that for your below K-12, we have Byju's and Vedantus and all of them, and I don't want to get into that segment. And above K-16 for working professionals, we have Simply Learn and Upgrad and all of them. But nobody is really focusing on the K-12 to K-16, and we decided to go after that segment. All right. So for me, and of course we narrowed down further. We said, okay, let's start with a particular, I would say, a category of students, and that's where we started to understand that what does my ideal customer want to accomplish that my product can help them with. So we started with engineering students, and we realized that all of them are struggling to learn about emerging technologies because that is not something that is being taught. And let's not please look at metropolitan cities. Let's please look at cities which are remote parts of India, where which faculty will want to go and teach them? Let's face it, unless it's IIT or an IIT or IIM, which faculty will want to go teach there? You also know, and I also know. So they're learning obsolete things, which are thereby making them unemployable. So we thought, what is the product that I can build here that can help them with? That's point number one. Second thing, what is it that my user is facing on a daily basis that my product could solve? And given the fact of COVID, I thought it was the best time for us to launch our product, our company, because everybody was learning from home online. So I really did not have to struggle to make people learn from home or learn online. All right. So I knew that, of course, this is going to be the future, and this is the way it's going to be for next couple of, at least 2-3 years, definitely, because that much time it will take for COVID thing to come in, because I also follow the IR part and I also follow geopolitical issues and I read all of them. All right. So I knew that this problem is here to stay. So what is the problem now they will face on a daily basis? Daily basis पे final year student के दिमाग में रहेगा कि यार I have to get hired, I have to get placed. ठीक है? अब I've come back home, no internship opportunity, no project opportunity, because everybody is working from home. Now, how am I supposed to address that particular issue? And that's something which is killing that student literally every single day, because they don't know how am I supposed to solve this. So we knew the challenges part. Of course, buying motivation is very, very important, because why will a student buy my product? And of course, we charge our students. So what will motivate my student to buy this particular product over any other available product? Because suddenly you had Coursera, which was giving all of these, premium content absolutely free of cost. So Coursera was smarter than us. It had gone and collaborated with all the colleges. And of course, it's a bigger brand name than us. Let's face it. So they had gone and collaborated. Now that is available free of cost to them. And I'm telling students, no, you pay me money. So what will be the buying motivation for the student to buy my product despite having a Coursera there? Okay. So that is another thing that you have to think of. So Coursera was there and their college professors were saying, lo mat, ye mat karo, wo mat karo. A lot of challenges. Na? When you do business, it's not like what you study in MBA. It's very different. When you move to business, you will realize very small fraction of what we learn in MBA gets applied here. Majorly, you deal with a lot of market factors which are not considered when we are studying MBA. All right. So what is going to be the buying motivation now? Now that I know that Coursera is giving free of cost, why will they buy my product? Okay. Another point. Then what could be the main objection that could prevent this person from buying your product? In our case, parents. तुम इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज जा रहे हो, इतना फीस हमने दिया है, और अब तुम हमको कह रहे हो और पैसे तो सीखने के लिए, तो तुम ठीक से पढ़ाई नहीं कर रहे हो, buying concerns. Professor is saying, no, you don't need to learn. Okay, I'm giving you Coursera free of cost. Many things. Student doesn't have money. Father-in-law's job doesn't have money. Okay, if COVID has impacted us, it has impacted everybody, right? The livelihood of everyone. So the buying concerns are there. Let us save money. Okay, and the two, like I said, Coursera was free and ours wasn't. So how do I make them buy my product? All right, similar product. There could be solutions which were already available there. In our case, fortunately, they weren't. We of course had done a competitive analysis really properly, so we knew what we were offering. We were not offering what others were offering. All right. So, but there was part of solutions. हम करवा देंगे तुमको. You don't have to do this year. You don't have to do internship. Okay, we will get you. We'll teach you in college training and placement training that happens. Soft skill training and whatever skills training and aptitude test, all of that. So there are similar products that my persona might be already using. And if I'm clear about that part, then I know that what is that one sweet spot that is not there that my product can offer. So all of this is a part of your user journey mapping. Now guys, one more thing that you have to look at is the buyer's journey. Very important. There are 3 stages to a buyer's journey. One is the awareness stage. Second is the consideration stage. All right. And third is your, decision-making stage. Now, when I'm talking about the awareness stage, it is essentially, the student knows that mujhe job chahiye. He's aware that I need to have a job, and for me to get a job, what I'm learning is in college is not going to help me. The only option that I had pre-COVID was that I could go and do internship. But remember, guys, there are 15 lakh students who are in college final year in engineering colleges at any time. So that means there are about 60 lakh students who are available as engineering graduates, and I have not taken into consideration the BCA, MCA, BSc Computer Science, or for that matter, the ITI, the polytechnics. I've not taken them also into consideration. So the buyer definitely knows that he's aware that if I do not upskill myself, I'm not going to get a job. So the first part is even being aware कि मुझे आता नहीं. Okay, so the awareness stage is are they able to identify? How do you make them aware that you don't have the skill set to get a job? Very few people are aware. Most of us are living in a team, especially the students. The age group that I am talking about. So the challenge that they're facing, are they even aware of it? All right. And how are they viewing these challenges? All right. Is that a priority for them to deal with those challenges? Ki job milegi ki nahi? Is that a priority? Or is that a priority कि मेरे को अच्छा CGPA मिल जाए and I should graduate? What is the priority, and how do you help them with that part? And what will be the consequences if they do not prioritize it, or if they do not deal with these challenges of not having the right skills? What will be the consequences? Is the buyer aware of it? Very important. Point number 2. Now, चलो आपने किसी तरीके से you have made them aware. All right. Now the second part is, how will they search for the information? Of course, we all know Google Baba. I love Google. We all go to Google. Now, in the consideration stage that we are talking about, Once you make them aware, the first part is the awareness part, guys, and which we spent a lot of time. I mean, I'm telling you, it's not easy to build connect with 10 lakh students, a million students in a span of less than 2 years. Okay, this is what we did in 1.5 years with 40 people. Okay, that's where we started. It's not easy. We did not spend a single penny on marketing. You'll never see our Google ads, you'll never see our Facebook ads, you'll never see our Instagram ads. And we have done all of this organically. All right. And I will tell you sometime later how we managed to achieve this feat. So I'll tell you separately. All right. Now, the first part is the awareness part. We made them aware. Ki bhai, ye hoga, aap nahi padhoge. Will everybody listen? Of course, 1% that we all know about will be the low hanging fruit, which is what we went for. The thing is, how are they currently searching for information? You have to be there before anybody else. All right. So the consideration stage would be what are the options available for any buyer? Because remember, guys, if there is a problem, there's an opportunity to make money. And as human beings, we are very, very smart. Okay, we will do something or the other to make money. And there are so many training centers. There are so many such companies who will try to fool students or mislead students. All right. So what are the options that are available to them? And how are they searching for this information, all right, on these options? And will they measure the pro and cons? That what happens if I take this option versus that option? So are they, this is what will happen during consideration stage. And hence you have to be very, very clear about your messaging. You have to be very, very direct, very, you have to be there basically. All right. That's what you have to do. And in the decision stage, which is the last stage, when now it is either I will take it or not take it. Okay. And that's the fun part. That's where the sales happen. Okay. Now in the decision stage, buyers have settled down. Unko pata hai ki, theek hai, I now need to do some kind of life project. I need the right kind of industry mentoring. Otherwise, I'm not going to get far in my life. Or I'll be stuck here. All right. So now they have settled on a solution and are looking for the most suitable solution. Remember, they will always go back. The personas buying concern, parents paise de do, teacher bolega mat lo, hum tumko padhayenge college mein. Now they're evaluating pros and cons, whether I should go listen to my college or whether I should come with this company or another company or other company. Okay? So in the decision stage, they are only searching for the most suitable product or service, and they will consider that who are the people behind this initiative. Brand really matters. So we have the right kind of brands on our platform when they're evaluating it. And how would the buyer evaluate the pros and cons of your brand versus your competitors? They will always do that. Whenever you're buying a t-shirt, shoes, always remember, you'll always see whether I should buy Reebok or I should buy Adidas or I should buy a Puma or a Nike, whatever, So they will always measure that part. And then what is that one single element in your product that will make them buy your product? And it takes you time to get that. That's called your product market fit. And that takes time. It took us about almost about 6 to 8 months. We started in March, April lagalo. So we were profitable from month one. We never had to take any money. We were paying salaries to all our employees on time, and still were making money. All right, and scaling business also. Why I'm telling you all of this, guys, is the fact that once you're clear about all of this and you're able to crack that, okay, this is one thing that matters, go after it. And that is what you need to find as a part of your user journey. And while you're doing all of this, you should also quickly start with your MVP. Okay, so ye nahi ki we spend a lot of time trying to figure all of this out, and we still do this figuring out part even today. So guys, me and my product team, we continuously are evaluating who are there in the market, what are they doing, how do I make my product better, what new features have to be added, etc. If you see our old Inmovidou website is undergoing a revamp, and very shortly you'll see a new version of our Inmovidou website. All right, because that was applicable 2 years ago, it is not applicable anymore because our product has undergone an evolution, and we are going to be adding all of those features and things and functionalities, etc. to our application. So there are multiple product lines that we've launched. Now let's come to the design part. Do we have time, guys? I know it's already 5. How would you want me to proceed with this?
Ma'am, how much time more would you require for the session? I think you told us that you will talk about UI UX right now. Yeah.
How many hours is it?
1 hour. We can push it, ma'am. Like you wanted to complete the UI UX aspect as well, right?
Because I will discuss it at a very high level, Shreyash. And if you guys want a specific UI UX kind of you want to learn wireframing and all of that, all right, then we'll need to have another session here. So I don't know how many of them are from the design background, but I'll give a very high level overview of, what UI UX is all about. And, and then if they need the specifics, we'll need to have another session.
Yeah, we can do with the, like you said, the former option, wherein like we go to a high level of.
Yeah, so we'll do a high level. See, because I didn't want to jump to UI UX, because unless you are clear about the user journey part, आप बनाओगे क्या product? You have to be very clear now who you're building for. So I mean, for me, the designing part comes much later. The first part is, of course, understanding my user, and that's what I wanted to highlight here. And 1 hour, honestly, is very shorter time to explain everything. But let's move to the design part real quickly, and I will just start sharing my screen. And it's a lot of content that's here because all right. So I mean, as we all know, what is design? Let's start with that part. So design in a simple definition, if I were to say, is essentially a thought process that you have. It could be with respect to anything, a product that you're building. Let's stick to product that you're looking at building. In terms of how you want it to be, in what shape and form, what color, what format, etc. Creation of that particular thing or implementing what your thoughts are, as a part of a solution building that you do is known as design. All right. Now it could be a product that you see, touch and feel, maybe like a piece of furniture. Your blueprints of your houses before they start getting built. In our case, when we are building, the design part would include your prototype part. That we're building. We'll start with simple pen and paper. Business process could also be a design part, sewing patterns could be a design part. So all of that is design that we are talking about over here from a UI UX point of view. Now, when we are looking at design, we further divide it into human-centered design and, user-centered design. All right. Now, let's start with understanding what is human-centered design, because, human-centered design is more about, I would say, associating or connecting and understanding of the I would say characteristics and certain peculiarities that are associated with perception, the human perception and the psychology part. All right. The design aspect is supposed to create that wow factor, that feeling of wow when they see your product, thing that you're designing. That feeling of wow has to be there. I mean, if you look at smart TVs as compared to when I used to see boring TVs. I mean, I was very happy that I had a TV back then, because all TVs were same. But today, when you go for buying a TV, they offer you so many different kinds of TVs that you are so fascinated and so, I would say, blown away that you think, okay, this is really something I need to have. All right. And it is playing in terms of your perception with respect to what you are expecting from that particular product, and also your psychology, that wow factor. I mean, we love the Italian cars, we love the German cars, we love the Japanese cars, etc. But why do we not love the Indian cars as much? Unless they have those design features, that feeling of not just the psychology part, the physiology part, but also other aspects that that we associate with when we are looking at that particular product. Which essentially means that any product which is human-centered will not just be nice and functional. Of course, it has to be, but it will also have things which will trigger our psychological factor, emotional factor, not just for a very small group of users, but for a very large group of users also. Louis Vuitton bags, for example, they I would say evoke the feeling of wow in terms of the psychological aspect. I mean, ultimately it's a bag only, right? But then that is the kind of emotion that it evokes. Or maybe a Mercedes car, maybe a BMW car, maybe a nice aeroplane. That is what I'm trying to highlight here as a part of human-centered design. Now, when I look at a user-centered design, we're talking about the person who is going to be using that particular design. Of course, it's a subset of your human-centered design. And it is more, I would say, concise version, more deeper version of your, of the human-centered design. Now you're getting more and more specific. So human-centered, I make a very nice table, chair, etc. a nice building, a nice house. All right, wo building framework ho gaya, that is like your human-centered design. You go into the house, you like it, you like the rooms, you like the windows, etc. But now let's move to the user-centered design, which is me, how I am going to be using that particular solution or that particular product that I'm buying or that I'm going to be using. Now here, let's take the houses. In a building, there are say 10 apartments. Now, when all in terms of build and make and all of that, the basic things that they will provide in a house, they will all be similar. They'll all be same. I would say faucet, same, plumbing, same kind of wall, same kind of room sizes, everything is same. But when you as a user decide to move into the house, you will have certain preferences, you will have certain things that you're expecting from that house. And and then your interior designer will start building the house, keeping renovating the house, not building the house, renovating your house as per your preferences, both emotional and physical perception of in terms of how I want that house to be. If I have small kids, versus older people versus younger people, I would be partying a lot in the house. I mean, all of those things also come into play when we are talking about user-centered design. Now, imagine building a product. I mean, I wouldn't say it's easy for an interior designer to come and do houses, but they still are designing it for say 10, 20, 30, at max 100 people in a year, versus companies which are now trying to build a product which has to resonate with millions of users. How do they narrow down on those aspects which create that aha moment with that same single product that everybody is going to be using? Apple products, for instance. Okay. Now let's quickly move to the next slide. See, for you, before you start with the UI UX part, you have to very clearly understand that a difference between human-centered design versus a user-centered design. You have to be very clear on that part. All right. An architecture is looking at it more from a human-centered design, versus an interior decorator is looking at it more from a user-centered design. All right. So similarly, let's move on to the user-centered design elements, which is, you have to be very, very clear about what is my user expecting from this particular product. What is the task requirement? In our case, we are very clear that our students are looking for relevant projects, relevant, I would say industry knowledge that they can come and acquire on our platform. So we are very clear about it in terms of what is the task requirement and what is my user wanting from my platform. Now, not just that, when we started, when you start getting feedback, then you make refinements to those design elements. That's why I said, when you start your company, when you start working on anything, build a prototype and launch it. Okay, please launch it, because your perception of a product may be very different from the user's perception. When we started our company, of course, we thought of our users in a certain way versus today when we have different product lines for different kind of users. All right, it is because it was not possible for us to incorporate all of those feedback into a single product, and hence we thought it is a good idea to have three different sections where we have three different product lines where they can understand. So it's very important. Otherwise, you will create confusion, you'll create chaos if you're not incorporating their feedback and building solutions or design which are meeting their requirements. All right, because you're ultimately building it for them. Then also, I feel it's very important to involve the users early on, so that they can test with your product, play with your product, give you your feedback. So when we launched BizTech, guys, we were very clear that in next 3 months, we need to have 12,000 active users on our platform. Very clear we were. All right. We launched the design with a very simple, basic looking website. And then we kept building on it. So of course, we knew that things were required, but we didn't want to just waste our time. And we said, okay, let's just see if people ask for it. And if yes, how many? I'm not going to build a solution because 2 people are asking me. But if I know that, okay, 30% of my audience is asking me for it, I will build it. All right. So it is very important to involve your users early on to check the design part. And then, of course, integrate your user-centered design with your other developmental activities and build, and start with the interactive design process here. Now, the key elements that you have to look at when you're building any kind of product is obviously the visibility, because when your user comes to the platform or they start using your product, they should know from the beginning that how they can use it. They may not be able to do everything, but it should be like a self-service model. I mean, if you look at WhatsApp, I mean, you don't have to teach your grandmother how to use it, but if you have to probably ask them to use Facebook or maybe create a Gmail account, that is something that they will probably struggle with, so the user should be able to see from the beginning that mujhe karna kya hai, and they should also be able to find any kind of information that they're looking for very quickly. all right? And there should be very clearly defined call to action buttons. You should be able to search clearly. The menu bar should be clearly defined. The text font that you're using, the text type that you're using, the text color, width, length, height, everything. It should be legible. All right. And please don't write long sentences like I've written here. I had to, because I had to teach you guys. But please use short sentences. Crisp lines, sharp lines, that they read it and they're able to understand it. Now let's come to the customer experience part. It's a fairly large, I would say, concept here. And a user, whenever they are interacting with your product, with your company, with your brand, is a part of your customer experience. And it, I think, lies at the center of any product that we're building, because ultimately it is for them that we're building this product. So every single touch point with our customers' interaction, right from the time that they log in till the time they are giving us a feedback or a review, is something that you are committing to them as a brand. All right. If I'm saying that I will do ABCD, my sales team will say that we will give you ABCD, and the customer experience is not that when they come to our platform, then trust me, your brand is not here to stay. It will collapse. All right. So that is a part of your customer experience. You really have to focus on that. And of course, the user experience is what UX stands for. And, essentially, it is more about how a user is going to be, who's that person who will be using your product. And it will cover, the user experience of everything, every single interaction that the user will have with the product will be a part of your user experience, which is UX. All right. Now, there's a lot of confusion that happens in terms of UX versus UI, in terms of design and in terms of tasks. So we've created a very simple, I would say, Venn diagram kind of a thing here, where we tell you very clearly that when we are talking about user experience, we are for a couple of things that you have to do, and we have discussed it very, I would say, in a very elaborate manner, is your user research. You have to be very clear about who your user is going to be. The user persona that we spoke about, the entire customer journey mapping, where will they start, how will they start, what step will happen, what action will lead to which page, what will they get, how will they make payment. All of that is part of your journey maps and the user flows. And then, of course, the information architecture, how will the information flow, etc. And then you start building the wireframe part. And once you have done the wireframing part, then the usability testing is also required. And you can say that, okay, all of these things are working fine, but they may or may not be working fine. When we come to UI, we are majorly talking about the colors. It is the interface part. So, the colors part, the typography part, what kind of font are we using, the layout, whether, grids we are using, what kind of buttons are we using, the mockups that we will be building here before we start making the prototype. All of that is part of your user interface. And then, of course, wireframing will include your, then we have wireframing, we have prototyping. I mean, I always believe in first building the wireframe and then building the prototype, get it tested. So the interaction part, the usability part, the product feedback, feature part, and how easily accessible it is also something that we do as a part of our UI and UX design process. All right. Now, the design process, of course, we are going to be discussing here. Start with the discovery stage. You are going to be doing your, when we are talking about the design strategy, you will typically try to talk to various people and try and understand from them as to, what is the problem that they are facing, how are they currently resolving it. So that entire survey part is a part of your discovery stage. The defined part is when we, when we are, the research part is your, I would say, is a part of your discovery. And defining part, you're trying to incorporate whatever information that you have discovered by talking or speaking to your users. You are now trying to incorporate and trying to walk that path so that you get a better understanding of your user. All right. And also empathize with your user that, okay, these are the challenges that they are facing. And, this is my typical user behavior. This is what my user is saying that they need. And these are the suggestions that they are talking about with respect to other, I would say, other products that they are doing. Now, let's move next to the ideate part. It's a brainstorming session where you will, typically when we do a brainstorming or ideates part, we of course talk to We gather all of those feedback in a quantitative manner. We analyze it. We talk to our team members. We talk to people. Typically from a team member, in terms of this is what we have identified and discovered, and they will also further give their ideas, etc. And the primary focus is that we get as many number of ideas as possible, and no idea is a bad idea. All right. So this is basically your ideation stage, and journey. Here is where we will start designing the journey map, which will visually basically represent what the user journey typically has to be. Where do they start? How do you entice them? How does a user enter your platform, engage with your platform, all of that, and then exit your platform? That entire journey is a part of when we start on the designing part. All right, and then of course the testing stage is to test if your product is working fine or not. All of that is a part of your testing part. Okay. Now, once we have, so when we are building the design part, typically when we're designing, we'll build all the mockups. All right. We will try to build the prototype also. So whatever information that we have received till now, my designer here will typically start with pencil and paper or pen and paper, and she will send me those screenshots saying that this is how I'm visualizing the problem statement that the team has given, and of course she also contributes to it. A designer cannot just take instructions; they also have to be a part of the discovery, define, ideate. All of those reports are also shared with them, and they can also interview people if they wish, and then come up with the design part, the user flow part. How the information architecture will be, how one page will lead to the other, what is the end goal that we're looking at achieving, and start with the low bit fidelity wireframe, which is nothing but a simple wireframe which you can build using pen and paper. All right, that's a great way to start. And then once we have finalized, or we have, we say that okay, all of this is making sense, and we are good to start with the prototype. I'm not the prototyping, but now let's move to building it as a prototype or a wireframe. You can use any of those tools, like you can use XD is there. Then you have your Balsamic, and you have Figma, Marvel. There's so many apps that you can use for building that particular wireframe. And once you do that, then you can have start working with your tech team if you need to, and build a very simple mock-up or a prototype and share it with your users and allow them to launch a beta test. I typically do an alpha test. I typically launch it with my employees first year in the organization. They test it, give me a feedback, we fix it. Then we launch it to our set of closed group users. And once they test it, then we launch it to do a soft launch with our potential customers and give their feedback saying that, hey, we have completed this. Would you want to participate? And that's how we do it. And the biggest validation, of course, is your sales, if that happens, which has happened for us, or the users, they come and join your particular, they start using your product, and they associated with it is when it is considered as, it is working. Now, again, we have further divided it into discover and define stage, your design strategies, competitive analysis, user research, all of this qualitative research, quantitative research is a part of your discover stage. And your define stage would include affinity mapping, similar products that we're using, user persona that you're building here, all right? And then of course the empathy mapping, because you have to walk the path that they are also facing. So all of this would be a part of your discover and define stage. Design, of course, like I said, is your low fidelity and high fidelity wireframe. We have already discussed. So low fidelity is essentially your paper and pen, and high fidelity would be if you're using tools for building those mockups or prototypes. And user interface, as we are aware, it includes all your color, typography, layout, grids, buttons, mockups, prototyping. All of that is covered as a part of your user interface. And color is very important. Color psychology is very, very important. You should know what color, if you're building for a platform or a product for maybe teenagers, they will want different set of colors versus if you're building for people who are in their mid-40s versus if you're building a product for kids. It is very, very important to use the right set of colors. So again, would depend on the product. Like we've already discussed about UI. It's basically color, text, image, icons, illustrations, buttons, image, everything would come under your UI. And then of course, typo also we have discussed, font size, font width, font color, length, all elements, they have to come together to create a great user experience. I never realized it until I started working with my team to do those kind of things. Layout is, of course, it's a visual component of an interface. The structure that you're building to support the visual component of the interface. It has to reflect good user experience. So a good layout is essential. It is very, very important. And maybe a good layout function may be invisible to the user, but when they're navigating from one page to other page, all of these things are very important when we are building it. Size again, when you are using size, use it very judicially. You will always want to use a larger size or a bold, etc., to determine what is important for them, like your hero image, etc. All of that is important to facilitate users' decision, and you take them to the section where you want them to focus on. So size also is a clear way to inform or highlight that particular aspect. Correct spacing is also very important. You have to, it'll again depend from product to product, because the layout is shown by what kind of spaces are there between the elements, or if there's a negative space, it'll depend on a lot of factors from a spacing point of view. And then this is your grid view that we have given you. It is essentially to make it look more appealing, more structured, create a sense of proportion, create a sense of, I would say, uniformity, and gives consistency to the interface that you are building here. All right. And then, of course, buttons. There are different kind of buttons. For example, there's a power button. You should have, you can be performing any kind of action. For example, in our case, we have submit button, new button, create new button, upload button. All of those buttons are there. So, you are essentially using buttons to highlight that this is the action that you have to take. Buy now, is an action. Explore now is an action. So, buttons are, again, using a great way to communicate, what you want your user to do. And then, of course, we have mentioned these things also over here. And I will be happy to take questions if there are any. And I think that brings me pretty much to the end of my session. And we are at 5:18, which is what I had thought. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. Yeah. If anyone has questions right now, you can ask. I think, ma'am, we can wrap up the session for today. We learned a lot, and I would just like to give a brief summary of everything we learned before we give an end. Sorry, ma'am, like you wanted to answer some question?
No. I just saw your message now. I'm sorry. I saw your message now.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that we have had a very great session. I think a lot of my peers at the BizTech Club would agree that we've had so many sessions before, but we never went so much in depth, understood the why, the need for each and every aspect, from user personas to the wireframes, everything. And just to give a small recap of what we did, we went through MVP, we went through the vision, we went through the target audience, we went through, in a company, what are the mission, what are the values, the story, the users that are there, and how we develop a product based on that. All of these lessons we took up, as well as some live examples of wherein situations wherein that, okay, the dynamics of population in Delhi versus the dynamics of population in the rest of the country, to having the vision and understanding the right time for marketing and launching the product. These are some of the lessons that we heard. And I would like to conclude by saying we are really grateful and look forward to have more sessions with you. And we've had a lot of students messaging us on WhatsApp, on chat as well. And I, by mistake, sent a message to everyone. And we will be like, they wanted to know more about slides. They wanted to know more how they could get the recording of the video. So I just wanted to ask, is it okay if we can upload the video on YouTube?
Yes, you may do that. And I just received a message saying that if I could share this slide, happy to do that. I will do that as well.
Sure. Yeah, so we have recorded that, and thank you very much. We would like, as BizTech, representing BizTech today, I would like to say we would like to have more sessions with you, and moving forward, help our students to understand not just why we prepare for summers, but understand what product management really is, step by step. And it was really helpful for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sir.